Have you ever stopped to think about how much of your life depends on systems you never see? Not just the power grid, not just the internet. I mean everything. The water that comes out of your tap, the card reader at the gas station, the trucks bringing food to the store, the signal on your phone, the invisible machine behind modern life. Now, imagine that machine stops. No warnings, no rescue coming fast enough. No one in charge who can fix it today. And for the first time in your life, you realize something chilling. You are completely on your own. That's not a movie scenario. That's not paranoia. That's the uncomfortable truth most people never prepare for. Because as long as the system works, independence feels optional. But the second it fails, independence becomes survival. And when that moment comes, the biggest danger isn't just hunger, thirst, or darkness. It's a shock. Because most people are not prepared for the emotional collapse that happens when the structure of normal life disappears. We think we're strong because we know how to function inside the system. But functioning without it, that's a different skill set entirely. The first thing that breaks is not infrastructure. It's certain. At first, people will assume it's temporary, a glitch, a delay, a bad day. They'll laugh it off, refresh their phones, wait for updates, expect someone somewhere to restore order. And that expectation is exactly what makes them vulnerable. Because while they wait for life to go back to normal, reality has already changed. The shelves start thinning, fuel gets harder to find, cash matters again. Information becomes unreliable. Emergency services get stretched, slow down deliveries, and slowly, quietly, the system people trusted their whole lives began revealing what it really was, a fragile chain held together by timing, energy, and public confidence. And once confidence breaks, everything accelerates. Here's the truth most people don't want to hear. The system doesn't have to collapse forever to destroy your safety. It only has to stop working long enough. 3 days without clean water, 1 week without resupply, a couple of nights without heat in the cold. A short disruption in a city full of dependency can create consequences that feel apocalyptic, even if the rest of the country is technically still standing. That's the danger. Not just collapse, but interruption. Because modern life has removed friction from almost everything. You push a button and food arrives, swipe a card and fuel appears, call a number and help comes. But when those layers disappear, people are forced to face a question they've avoided their entire lives. Can I actually take care of myself? For most, the answer is uncomfortable. Because self-reliance is not a mindset you download into a crisis. It's built long before the crisis begins. And when the system stops working, your habits are exposed, your excuses are exposed, your dependency is exposed. That's why survival is never just about gear. You can own expensive flashlights, tactical backpacks, water filters, and freeze-dried food, but if your mind still believes someone else will solve the problem, you are not prepared. Real preparedness begins when you accept that in the critical first hours, you are the response team. No one is coming to organize your house. No one is coming to protect your family. No one is coming to calm your fear for you. That moment changes everything. Because once you accept you're on your own, your priorities become brutally clear. You stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a survivor. Water becomes more important than comfort. Shelter becomes more important than entertainment. Silence becomes more valuable than opinions. Observation becomes more useful than panic. You stop asking what should happen and start dealing with what is happening. And that shift, that mental pivot, is where most people fail. Not because they're weak, but because the system trained them to outsource responsibility. It trains them to depend on convenience, to trust constant availability, to believe disruptions are always temporary and solutions are always external. In normal times, that works. In abnormal times, it becomes a trap. And here's where it gets even more dangerous. When systems fail, people don't just lose services, they lose identity. The person who felt capable because they had money, a job title, a routine, a digital life, and social status suddenly finds that none of those things can purify water, keep a room warm, or make a neighborhood safe. The symbols of stability vanish fast. What remains is raw competence. Can you stay calm? Can you assess risk? Can you ration? Can you adapt? Can you move without drawing attention? Can you make good decisions while tired, cold, and afraid? Because in a real breakdown, those become the only currencies that matter. And this is where the gap opens up between people who survive well and people who spiral fast. The ones who spiral keep waiting for permission to act. They waste precious time hoping for official instructions, clearer answers, or signs that normal life is about to resume. They cling to denial because denial feels safer than responsibility. But the ones who adapt move early. They fill containers before the taps go dry. They charge devices before the grid fails completely. They withdraw cash before systems lock up. They secure doors before the streets get strange. They gather information, reduce exposure, and make peace with discomfort before discomfort becomes chaos. And that is what survival really looks like. Not heroics, no drama, not cinematic action scenes, just clear thinking, early action, and the discipline to face reality faster than everyone else. And here's the part almost nobody talks about. Being on your own doesn't only mean being physically alone. It means reaching a moment where you understand that emotionally, mentally, and practically, you must become your own anchor. Because fear spreads faster than fire. Neighbors panic, rumors explode, social media turns into noise, families argue, people make reckless choices just to feel in control. In those moments, calm becomes a weapon. The person who can stay measured while others unravel has a massive advantage. That advantage saves lives, because panic burns energy, panic wastes supplies, panic creates noise, conflict, bad timing, and stupid risks. But calm creates space. It lets you notice what others miss. It helps you conserve strength, protect the people around you, and choose actions that still make sense tomorrow. So if the system stops working and you're on your own, what actually happens? First, illusion dies. Then comfort dies. Then routine dies. And after that, the truth shows up. The truth that survival has always been personal. The truth that convenience was never security. The truth that most people were never ready because they were never taught to be. But that truth doesn't have to be hopeless. Because once you see the system clearly, you stop worshiping it. You stop assuming it will always save you. And that's when real preparedness begins, not with fear, but with clarity. You start building reserves. You start learning useful skills. You start thinking in backups, not assumptions. You start understanding that resilience is not about living scared. It's about living ready. That changes the way you see everything. A pantry becomes time. A flashlight becomes options. A water container becomes control. A quiet plan becomes confidence. And little by little, you stop being a passive user of the system and become something far more dangerous to chaos, a person who can function without it. That is the real goal. Not to predict every disaster, not to hide from the world, not to fantasize about collapse, but to become the kind of person who doesn't fall apart when the machine does. Because one day, whether it's a blackout, a supply failure, civil unrest, a storm, or something nobody sees coming, the world around someone is going to stop working. And in that moment, all the noise disappears. No slogans, no guarantees, no convenience, no illusions, just reality and the question that decides everything. When the system stops working, will you still know how to function? Because if you don't build that ability now, the day you're on your own won't just be frightening. It will be the first day you realize how dependent you really were. And by then, realization is expensive. I'll see you in the next one. That is, if the grid stays up.